Welcome back, everyone. We're on location, not just any location. We're at Fort William Henry in Lake George. And joining me today is Kathy Flacke Muncil, who's the CEO, chairman of the board, Fort William Henry. Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here. And someone who I've interviewed, had the pleasure of interviewing before. How do you like that?
I love it.
You do? This is Eric Siy, who's the executive director of the Fund for Lake George. Said it right this time.
You surely did.
I
Thank
did.
you. Thank
And the reason that we asked to come up here is that just recently, the Fund for Lake George, in cooperation with a lot of very powerful business leaders in this community, decided to create a business council dedicated to working together with the fund to help preserve this Queen of American Lakes, which is sitting right over there. It's a big job. I remember when I interviewed you the last time, when you were talking about the different pressures on the lake and how the lake was being threatened and what you were doing between the Jefferson Project and what you were doing to try to get the community involved with the day-to-day to try to preserve this lake. I want to bring you up to date. There are three basic areas, right? We're talking about invasive species,
Yes.
we're talking about sewage, and we're talking about runoff.
Correct.
And if you think about it, that's human impact, 2 out of 3. Or actually 3 out of 3 if you think about fishing and boats that come in with invasive species attached to their hulls and whatnot. And how important it is that we stay on top of this. My wife and I this summer had the pleasure of going to the annual meeting, and we left there stunned. Eric, it was so well done, and the speakers, John Kelly I'm thinking about. So tell us about 2018.
Well, it's a very big year for the fund. I mean, we have a very ambitious agenda, as you know, and you mentioned the 3 primary stressors on the lake. And on each of these 3 fronts, we are doing everything possible to employ science to solve the problems facing the lake and to invest in those solutions as we go. And this year we have done a lot toward that end. We're really working to, and it was really in this past year that we claimed the mantle of being a model for what it takes to protect this priceless resource, and a model that others can learn from and adapt for their precious water bodies. So it's been a big year.
You know, not only for us, but for future generations, right? Which is so important. Kathy, you know, her middle name is Flacke. The name Robert Flacke might mean something to people. A real pioneer in the conversation that we're having right here. Someone, generations, who was just so involved with wanting to protect the lake. You grew up here.
I did.
What was that like?
It was a wonderful experience. It really made you realize, especially when you left, how significant the opportunities were to enjoy nature. I did leave for like 15 years after I graduated from college, and when I came back, I was even more amazed because having traveled the world and done lots of jobs, there is truly no place like this. There really is no place.
I know.
I would second that.
Yeah.
Boy, we'd have to get on a very long line of the people who would agree with that. You know what I mean? You used a phrase from Teddy Roosevelt. I don't know if you remember this or not. And it really stuck in my head. And the phrase is?
The economy and environment are opposite sides of the same coin.
Right.
And they really are.
Yeah, they truly are. And striking a balance there is really the key to making that work, right?
Exactly.
Recently, they formed the Business Council. Kathy, you're one of the major
Council of
players
Business Advisors
for the Fund for Lake George.
That's right.
Big responsibility there. And really the beginnings of what he just said to make that work, right?
Absolutely. Business, this is a perfect outlet for business to continue to do things that we do well, but we may not have the experience or the science or the data available to us. We always want to be improving our environment instead of ruining it, because we have no existence without a balance of safety versus saving the environment. And the things that Eric has talked about that they've done, not only have they done scientific data and studies that we can depend on, but they put it into action. And so by working with the local governments, at this point, they've been able to lower the salt used, and it's still been safe. Imagine that. And that's
Yeah,
the
sure.
balance that we look for in terms of supporting activities and things of that nature.
You know, the bottom line here, I mean, technology has a lot to do with this. I remember they were talking about advances in monitoring the way snowplows actually plow the roads. You know, there was all kinds of things at that meeting. I just tell you, that meeting was amazing.
It's very exciting.
But you know what? It goes back to a basic premise that our livelihoods are dependent on the health of this lake. So if you're a business, or if you're a family vacationing here, if you're a homeowner here, if you're a stakeholder of any kind, or just a visitor, we need to protect the lake.
Absolutely.
What do you see maybe short-term and long-term, well, let's start with short-term goals, of the balance between what the fund needs and how the Business Council can help?
Well, I'll use one great and very timely example. We have a failing wastewater treatment here in Lake George.
Oh, that's an understatement, by
It's
the way.
pumping hundreds of tons of contaminants into this pristine water body, nitrates primarily, and chloride. Nitrates are what? They're fertilizer.
Fertilizer.
We're fertilizing this lake. What is that going to do to the lake? It's going to cause algae blooms. So we have jointly come together to ensure that this treatment plant is replaced in the earliest possible time frame. We need state funding to make that happen. And so we are appealing to the governor, to the state legislature, to deliver the funding so we can replace this 85-year-old antiquated plant that was never designed to service the volume of users that it's expected to.
You know, two things I want to talk about this. One of the members of the Business Council is Ed Bartholomew. Recently, you were just down the state capitol right before a budget committee.
Correct.
Okay, how did that go?
It went amazingly well. I mean, it was, you know, living proof of the economy and the environment being opposite sides of the same coin.
Yes, right.
Ed is the Warren County EDC president, excuse me. He's a fellow Council of Business Advisor. And we presented the economic case and the environmental case, and they go hand in hand, and the optics weren't missed on any of the legislators up on the dais. It was
Great.
It was very powerful. And that is the importance of having businesses at the table. They deliver a message that resonates. The economy matters. I'm sorry, when it comes to protecting the environment, the economy matters. It's the economy, stupid.
Yes,
Right.
it is. And the common currency here being the lake.
Exactly.
Right, of course, yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's so important. Big undertaking, right, for you and the other members on the council here. Tell me what you hope to accomplish.
We would not call it a big undertaking. We would call it a
good.
necessary undertaking. And again, as we fill in our days with what's important and how we make our businesses live for the future, this was a piece that really, but the science they brought to us helps us to do our jobs better and helps us to do something that, with not a lot of effort, really. It's really the knowledge that you can create a better balance so that we're here forever. You know, our great-grandchildren are able to enjoy this area and live here year-round. This area needs the year-round presence. You know, people need year-round jobs with good support systems. And saving the lake and allowing businesses to blossom within that is what's going to make the difference.
You know, protecting the lake from having algae blooms is almost like a turning point in the road in a way. If pea soup green might mean anything to you, any of you have seen areas of Lake Champlain, for instance, you recognize that you just cannot allow this to happen. You know, this marriage here, again, you know, opposite sides of the same coin. You know, you can actually influence policy making, can't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you hope to do that?
Absolutely.
In what
There's
way?
There's no doubt. Well, you know, there is strength in diversity, right? Whether it's an
got it.
ecosystem or a constituency.
Right, got it.
And whether it's state legislators or the Congress. I mean, seeing businesses come together with environmental concerns, guided by science. Everything we do is built on a foundation of science. That's the great equalizer.
That's the difference.
You know, science I like to say information is power. We're providing empowered information in protecting Lake George. And this is critical to the model we've created here. And what does that do as well? It informs decision makers, policy makers. And so if we're delivering a message of what's needed to protect Lake George, and science is driving that message, we have that much more influence on the process.
Well, that's empirical data, you know, and you face it, someone like yourself, you know, and the other members of the council, business people thrive on data. They want to know the numbers.
Exactly.
They want to know how it works.
Yep.
And once
You are correct.
then that's the perfect marriage there, because you know that your responsibility of providing them with that data, and then your responsibility for acting on it, is what is where the key to success is
Yeah.
on this, for sure.
Exactly.
Well, I couldn't be more
It's a
excited
perfect
about
marriage.
it.
And it bears repeating. I mean, we talked about this before, but Lake George is now the world's smartest lake through our partnership with IBM and RPI, the Jefferson Project.
Right.
And it's not the smartest lake just for science sake. It is the smartest lake to ensure that it stays the best protected lake in the world as well. I mean, everybody should feel really excited by that, enthused, motivated, because there's a lot of passion about this place. I mean, you know this better
Absolutely,
than I do.
absolutely.
There's a legacy here.
I know.
This is all about legacy. And how do we keep this lake as pristine as it was, or near to as pristine as it was, when Thomas Jefferson was here and wrote that letter to his daughter that we all know about, that this is without comparison the most beautiful
Right.
water he ever saw.
That's right.
Hence the name, the Jefferson Project.
You know, we all have personal stories about this. I have a granddaughter, two of them, and young, 5, 7 years old, and we have them at the house, and my wife and I, when we talk about this, it's just how to preserve it for them.
Exactly.
That's the way you feel about this lake. I don't
Exactly.
care what side of the coin you're on.
Exactly.
It doesn't make any difference. The currency is the lake,
That's
and that's what we need to protect. Well, we're going to want to check in with you a number of times, okay, just to find
Certainly.
out what's going on.
would
If
love
any
that.
legislation is passed that affects this, we want to know about that, and keep our viewers informed on this, because this is the Queen of American Lakes. So,
And
really.
we hope they'll all come to our annual meeting, which this year
You
is
got
July
the annual
6th.
meeting plug in there. This is great.
Well done.
Well done, Eric.
July 6th at 9 a.m. at the Sagamore. There's breakfast, and you will learn everything you want to know and more about the Queen of American Lakes.
And I think I started the interview by saying my wife and I had been to the meeting this past summer. You will leave numb. You will not believe how interesting and how much information you get about this. And now this year, you're going to have the Business Council involved too. That's going to be
Absolutely.
cool.
We'll be there.
Great. Kat,
Very
thanks
cool.
for inviting us
Thank
out.
you. Thanks
Great
for
to
having
see you
us.
as
Thanks for
always.
having us.
You're
Thanks for
quite
supporting
welcome.
the lake.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
indeed.
Ah,
Thank you.
it's not an effort, trust me. All right, and you want to see this interview again? You can head to our website, looktvonline.com.